Hey everyone, it's Colin. How's it going? When it comes to retro computing, Windows XP has been gaining in popularity over the last few years, and that's generally related to the kinds of games that people want to play. If you build your own retro computer, you're going to need to install a copy of the OS on it. Now, getting Windows XP is kind of outside the scope of this video, but I do want to tell you about two cool tricks that can help speed up and streamline that OS installation process. The first one has to do with Windows updates. If you're a fresh installer of Windows, the best practice is going to be to go out and get all of the available updates and patches for it. Even if you use a Windows XP install disk that has Service Pack 3 built in, Microsoft continued to release updates for quite a few years after releasing SP3, so it can be very time-consuming to go through and get all of those patches installed. Guys, I mentioned that there's still a couple of prerequisite updates you have to install by hand in order to get Windows Update itself to even work. The last time I installed XP on a machine, the number of service-like updates and hotfixes and patches and everything that were available through Windows Update was kind of staggering, and it took several hours for the computer to get through all of them. That was just a huge waste of time. So, the community has gotten together and some very bright individuals came up with an unofficial Service Pack 4. It's available, of course, for free, and it's basically just kind of a big roll-up of all of those updates that Microsoft released after Service Pack 3 in one application. It's very easy to install. Yes, you've already got the OS on the computer, so basically don't recommend it. Dealing with Windows Update and stuff like that. So that's a much more streamlined, easier way to get all of those updates that you need installed on the computer in one shot without having to do a whole bunch of But that's still kind of a manual process, right? I mean, you've got to get the computer installed with the OS, you've got to get some basic drivers on there so you can copy the file over for that SP4 update, whether you burn it on a CD or stick it in a USB flash drive, whatever. You have to go through the process of installing Service Pack. So that brings us to suggestions/tips 2, and that is a really, really cool utility that lets you build all of this kind of stuff directly into the Windows XP installer. It's a utility called Nlight. It's actually been around for a very long time. It came out back when Windows XP was still like the predominant OS. And it lets you do all sorts of really cool things. What's even nicer about Nlight is that even though it's a relatively old application, it still works fine on modern versions of Windows. So let's take a look at it. It's pretty easy to step through kind of all the options that Nlight presents you with. It's a very logical workflow through it. The first thing it's going to ask you for is where are the installer files for Windows XP. In my case, I've got everything stored in a folder here on the desktop, and I just have an ISO image of the XP drone with Service Pack installed. On Windows 10, you can just double-click that and you can this image as if it were a real CD. So it's very simple to just open that up and it then wants you to pick a folder and save it. And then it'll just copy all the files over into that folder that you want. It'll ask you if there's a preset that you want to use. This is in case you have kind of a bunch of settings that you've used in Nlight before and you want to apply it again. Maybe you're building another image or something like that. And then this is where you select all of the really cool options that you want to use within Nlight. There's a lot of power here, so be sure to go through and kind of check out all the options. It can really save you a lot of time and let you end up with a very, very customized Windows XP installer. In my case, I'm going to integrate that Service Pack, in this case that unofficial Service Pack 4. I'm also going to throw some drivers in there, and then I'm also going to go through and in the end, we will build and install it. So let's simply pick that. And it'll automatically inject it directly into our installation. This is a process called slipstreaming. It's existed for quite a while, and you can do it separately outside of Nlight, but it's really nice that it just has it as a built-in option. It saves you quite a bit of time. Now I'm going to add some drivers because the particular laptop that I want to install this image on, well, it's missing a whole bunch of drivers from the default install. You can inject drivers directly into your Windows XP install using Nlight. What's also really cool is if you've ever had a computer with kind of a non-standard hard drive controller or one that XP just doesn't have drivers for out of the box, you may be familiar with the process of having to hit F6 during the initial setup and supplying a hard disk driver for the XP installer. The thing that sucks about that process is it literally only works with floppy disks. What's cool is the drivers you inject here are also available to the XP installer program, so you don't need to worry about building a special floppy disk or hard disk driver on it if the XP installer is already done. It's already built in to the installer. I'm just going to inject an entire folder full of drivers. You just do this in one shot. And you just pull all of them and make it available during the install. So for all the hardware in the computer that I have drivers for, I just go ahead and install it. And here's where we can get into the XP setup. So you can potentially set all of these options in such a way that you don't have to answer any of the normal questions that XP asks you during the setup, like what's your name, what's your product key, what times you in, all that kind of stuff. You can kind of pre-fill and just bake into it, which is really slick. You don't have to do all of these, and anything you don't answer, it'll just prompt you for like usual, but this is another really nice way to save time. You can also do some additional kind of options related to the install. You can specify settings things like what the folder name is for the Windows install directory if you want to override that. That's normally a setting that the XP installer doesn't ask you, doesn't give you an option to change. You can change it in here, along with just a whole bunch of other really cool stuff. Now, there are some additional pages in here where you can remove specific components. You need to be careful if you go and do that because some components have dependencies on others, and Nlight gives you kind of enough leeway to screw yourself if you don't know what you're doing. In this case, though, I'm just going to go ahead and start the process. We're done. We just hit next, and now we have the option for what we want to do with the, ultimate installer that we've made here. In my case, I'm going to create an image file. And it'll create that file for you. If you have an optical drive, okay, run the installer directly to a disk for you, save you an extra step. There is one thing you need to keep in mind, though, and that is the size of the installer. The normal Windows XP installer fits pretty comfortably with your standard CD-ROM. However, if you go around adding service packs and hot fixes and other patches, and especially drivers or potentially other programs, that installer can become bigger than would fit on a CD. You've got a couple of options in this case. That's going to affect me here because my ultimate image file is a little bit over a gigabyte in size, well bigger than what would fit on a CD. But the laptop I'm going to install this on has a DVD drive, so I can just burn this to a blank DVD disc instead. Another option is to use one of two different third-party utilities that allow you to basically Windows XP offers a USB flash drive. That's not something that was really an option back when XP was dominant. It's something that community support has kind of added on. Now, this is such a cool program. It only works on Windows 2000 XP into 2003. So you may be like, well, gee, I wish this existed for newer Windows. This can save a whole ton of time. Wrote this, kind of split it off and wrote a separate program for Windows 7, 8, and 10 called NT Lite. And it's even more powerful. That's kind of a separate episode in and of itself to go through just because of how many options there are. A lot of the options in that program are very similar to what we saw here in Nlite, with the ability to add in drivers and options and software updates and that sort of thing. But how much deeper you can get into the install process with NT Lite is just kind of mind-blowing. You can do some really custom stuff with it that's just fantastic. And the best thing is this is all free software to use. So I'm going to include links to not only the unofficial Service Pack 4, but also Nlite and NT Lite down in the description if you want to check them out. But for now, if anything, this is one really cool tool, and well, hopefully you find it useful too. If you like this one, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at thisdoesnotcomp. And as always, thanks for watching.